Everyone to the IARPIC PA4, the Hazard Working Group webinar series. I'm Anna Lidal. I'm an associate scientist at Woodville Climate Research Center and a co-team lead in this working group, along with John and Meredith, and we have Tom Douglas and also Steve Gray and in the team as well. And we created this webinar series last spring because we wanted to connect the community engaged in developing tools and also data sets to support communities affected by hazards, and also to identify opportunities that exist in the tool development and also in the data development. So to learn what you guys are all up to and make connections and create collaborations. So we'll have a presentation first here for the first half, 20-30 minutes, and then the second half will be a discussion. And if you feel more comfortable, raising your hand on Zoom and speaking up, or if you prefer to put your questions or comments in the chat, both ways work great. It's completely up to you. And we welcome your thoughts and ideas and comments. And I am very pleased to introduce Elise here, Thurber from University of Colorado, and she works for the Center for Education, Engagement, and Evaluation. And she and Twyla Moon, and I also know that Matt Jones is here today, they are working on this QGreenland tool, and a Greenland-focused GIS tool for community discussion and decision-making. So I'm super curious of what you guys are up to. So Elise, I'll let you introduce yourself more and go for it.
Yeah, thanks. Hi, everyone. I'm Elise Thurber. I'm calling in from Geneva, Illinois today. So not the Arctic. And yeah, I work at the Center for Education, Engagement, and Evaluation at CU Boulder. And let me just get my screen up here and get going. All right, so today I'll be talking to you about QGreenland, which is a Greenland-focused GIS tool for community discussion and decision-making. This is kind of an old slide. I apologize for that, but this is the original iteration of QGreenland team. So Twyla Moon is our PI at the National Snow and Ice Data Center. And then Trey Stafford and Robin Merowitz are our software developers, also at NSIDC. And I'm at CEEE. And then on our newest iteration of QGreenland, we also work with the Arctic Data Center, and I will get pictures of that part of our team up ASAP. I'm going to give you an overview of QGreenland and give you a quick demo, and then I'll talk about some workflows and usability related to hazards. And then I'll talk to you about our next phase, QGreenland Net is what we're calling it, and the web portals and the tools that can help make data more fair. So first, what is QGreenland? So we like to say it's a free all-in-one package of geospatial data sets that are focused on Greenland. So this data package contains curated interdisciplinary data sets. So anything from glaciology, we have some biology sets, and then base maps and satellite images. And so it's in QGIS. So it's for data viewing and GIS analysis. Come on, here we go. I think I skipped over one. So QGreenland can be used offline because you download this data package and can use it with QGIS. But there is some additional data that's available to you when you are online. And it's really designed for use by anyone. So researchers in education, communities, and decision makers. So why QGreenland? So QGreenland was inspired by Quantarctica or QAntarctica, which is a research tool that's focused on Antarctica, a very similar research tool for QGIS. And Greenland is a growing interest, a region of growing interest, and there was really community interest in developing a similar data set for Greenland. And we hope continuing growing interest for developing similar tools in other parts of the Arctic. We hope that QGreenland increases accessibility of data to other researchers, but also outside the research community for decision makers and in education and students. We hope it increases collaboration and outreach. And we hope that we're helping to make data more fair, more accessible and interoperable and usable by a broader community. So why did we develop QGreenland for QGIS? Well, first, QGIS is free and open source, and this is one of our primary focuses, is living in this open source, open data land. And QGIS, I should note that if you are familiar with a lot of other GIS software, with Esri software, those skills and that knowledge that you've developed really easily transfer into QGIS. We found that it's very user-friendly. It also has like a really robust network of users that have created a lot of different tutorials and videos and like written materials on how to use it and any sort of processes that you want to do. And it has a really robust analysis with a suite of open source tools and processing that integrates with other programs. If you've heard of GrassGIS, those tools are also integrated into QGIS. And I've mentioned this, and then it has a really professional map production capabilities and reporting tools. It makes it really easy to create beautiful maps to share and make data accessible to others. I wanted to give a quick 5-minute demo. I think I got to reshare here, so hold on. I just wanted to show you what this looks like. So when you first download QGreenland, it looks like this. And so all of our various data layers are organized by theme or topic. So you'll see we have biology, we have environmental management, frozen ground, future climate projections, geology, geophysics, glaciology, human activity. I'm going to open that one up. So this has the locations of research sites and some sea routes. And when I open these up, our data is in the geo package format. So that's what these files are. And then we have extensive metadata for all of our data. So we haven't created any of this data. We've just curated it from primarily open and available sources. There are some data layers where there was nothing that was publicly available yet that we've included, but we really strive to include data sets that are already available elsewhere. And so in the metadata, we have an abstract, the full citation, the URL, so you can get an idea of what's in there. And then I'm going to go over actually into QGIS here. So the data layers, we have a list of the layers that are included. We have a quick start guide. We have a more extensive user guide. And then this is our map project. So when you double click that, our map project opens up. And in here, we've chosen symbology for all of our layers that we think works for that data, that's accessible, avoids any sort of red-green contrast. And then I'm just going to, so there are sort of two scales that our data operates on. We have an Arctic-wide scale. So some of the data sets that we have, particularly if they're point layers or relatively small layers, are Arctic-wide. And so I know that some of these bird layers extend Arctic-wide. The larger layers, so more of the raster layers that are like really just big files, are clipped to be just focused on this Greenland boundary. So if I turn on something, yeah, I'll turn on one of these climate outputs. Well, that has really subtle coloring here. Here. You'll see that these are clipped to Greenland, and that's because these are really large files, and we wanted to keep the download size of QGreenland manageable. And so we've clipped those where they're large. And then I just want to show you also, so these are all the basic layers, and then these are in here Our satellite imagery is the internet required layers that you have to be online to use. Everything else you can be offline as long as you've downloaded it. And so these we have, I'm going to turn on the orthophoto mosaic. And so this one will scale based on how zoomed in or out you are. So right now I'm zoomed fairly out, so it's not very detailed, but I can zoom in further. There we go. It takes a second to load. Come on. Well, it will look nicer than that. My computer is being fairly slow right now. There we go. That's okay. So that's just the quick 5-minute demo of what this looks like when you're in there. If you're familiar, if you have some GIS knowledge and you used this before, probably familiar with the processing toolbox. I just wanted to show you some of those integrated tools. So all the GRASS and the GDAL tools are integrated in the processing toolbox in here. And so that's what that looks like. Let me go back to my presentation here. We've created QGreenland to be really, really open and really easy to use. And so what does that mean? Is we've done all our development in the open. If you were to go to our GitHub site, I'll pull it up here in just a minute, you'll see that we've included all the coding. So it should be, there we go. If you had a software developer, you could go borrow our code and create a Q, whatever region that you wanted, fairly straightforwardly. So I'll just show you on our GitHub where we even have this how to build a QGreenland core package. We have documentation for how to do similar things. We have really clear documentation. So we have this Read the Docs website that goes through how to use QGreenland, some practice tutorials to get you started and comfortable with QGIS and comfortable working with the data that's in QGreenland, and how to create your own. Really, we've tried to put as much thought into what our users want as possible in our documentation. And then we also have really extensive tutorials. We have a 7-video beginner tutorial series that goes through how to download QGreenland and how to get started and some practice processes. And then we have other workshops and how-tos. We are currently developing a more intermediate tutorial series that should hopefully be out in the next couple of weeks here that walks people through how to integrate more of their own data with and make it work with QGreenland better. Sorry about that. I wasn't in present mode after my switch to QGIS. I wanted to talk through a little bit of a workflow for how a tool like QGreenland, maybe if you weren't interested in Greenland, not exactly QGreenland, but how could a tool like this be used for hazards? So the beginning of your research, can download and install and just explore the available data and the context that's available to you there, and then add your own data or your other pertinent data to that environment and view those together in a broader context. It can be useful for more advanced research. We've had people who plan field campaigns using QGreenland and use it to scout locations. We've had people use QGreenland on ships to show students what they're looking at when they're going to field sites and like what's around. You can use QGreenland offline in the field because it's in that QGIS software. And then you could also use it along with Python or R to analyze and create new data. And then QGIS is really helpful for sharing and disseminating data. So you can use it to create meaningful and impactful visualizations for presentations and publications. And we've had QGreenland published in a few papers that they've used to create maps using the QGreenland data. I wanted to just give where we're headed now. So this is sort of like QGreenland past and what the current iteration of the project that we're working on. is we're working with Arctic Data Center. We've had a QGreenland portal at the Arctic Data Center. So this is where other data layers that feature Greenland are stored in the repository, so the metadata or the data set itself, and they've been there. And then we're working on some visualization improvements there and getting some additional data. So if you were to go to the QGreenland data portal, you would see that there's 871 data sets related to Greenland in there, but we know that there's 17,000 Greenland-focused data sets that exist. This is just a quick graph of Greenland-focused data sets from other Data One repositories, Data One affiliated repositories. And so, you know, Pangea has 10,000, and then the Greenland Ecological Network GEM here has over 1,000, and they've just been onboarded to the Arctic Data Center. So that data will be available in there soon. And just I've got some screenshots of the new data portal. It's not quite live yet, but we have some improved visualization of the additional data sets that are there. And this is really nice because you're able to see this other data before you downloaded it. So you can see, is this something that's helpful to me, or is this not something I'm looking for? Which is a really nice feature. And just a couple other pictures of what's going on there and all the data that's there before you can download it. And so the next phase of QGreenland, QGreenland.net, is where we're really planning for and creating data with a tool like QGreenland in mind. So all this data that exists in these federated data networks like Data One, like the Greenland Ecosystem Monitoring, Arctic Data Center, we're developing some geospatial tools that will help standardize that data so that it can be more easily used in a tool like QGreenland, in the data portal, in any other things that you would like, because there's a lot of data that's not necessarily in the correct format that makes it accessible or easy for you to do analyses with, and it can be a lot of work to get, and a lot of time, frankly, to get that into a format that is helpful to you. And so we're trying to make that process simpler with these tools. And then these tools could also be used to put that analysis-ready data back into the data repositories. Yeah. And so what have we learned about the important needs of our end users? One of our lessons is that tutorials and how-tos are really important for usability. When we've done workshops, when we've talked to teachers to get them to use QGreenland in their classrooms, it's not until we had these videos that really helped expand our reach. And then people are really appreciative of creating these how-tos to really get people into them and using the tool. And one of our top requests is, how do I use my own data with QGreenland? Like, I appreciate that you have all this context, but I'm really interested in X, Y, Z. And so we are developing, we have developed this workshop on how to get your own data more usable with QGreenland, and then these web tools that will help make data more accessible, will really help you use your own data with QGreenland and with tools like that, in that context. And so I've gone much faster than I intended to. And so I just want to shout out our website again. So if you need more information, QGreenland.org, and then our GitHub site, and then Data One's GitHub site for more information. And I guess with that, I'll take your questions.
Thank you so very much, Elise. Fantastic, fantastic. Let's see, what questions or comments or thoughts do you have for Elise and the team? I have some, but I want to see if someone wants to jump on first. I'm curious, Elise, so in regards to hearing feedback from your users, like what kind of approaches have you found really helpful there in gather comments and thoughts from people on what they would like to see?
We did do a more extensive sort of user evaluation several years ago. But yeah, what we heard from them is that I focus more on education outreach, so I'm like interested in what the barriers were to classroom use. And it was really like comfort with QGIS and their own GIS skills. So it's like building these tutorials, building this documentation that really helps them feel more comfortable and like able to use it with their students. And then like having that available and ready to go. And I think part of the beauty of QGIS is that there is such an extensive user base. So even if we can't provide the solution to a problem, that those materials exist elsewhere to help people navigate different tools in QGIS.
Great, exactly, Meredith. Thanks for. Is there a Q Alaska? Luann Dahlman is asking.
Not yet. I'm pressuring someone in this call to build it though.
Indeed. And on that note, Luann, next webinar on November 14th, same time, same day, we will have kind of a version of it. So Leslie Jones, who works for the state of Alaska, she will present on the Alaska Map Portal. So join then, Luann. You can hear. I see Matt has a question. Go for it, Matt.
Well, it's more of just like a continuation of the conversation about the user stuff. Like, Elise, can you talk a little bit about the QGreenland data workshop and kind of some of the needs and desires that came out of that in 2022? I thought that was a really interesting event.
Oh, the Greenland data workshop? Is that what you're talking about,
Yeah,
Matt?
because it went beyond just the educational users, and there's a lot of researchers there.
So this was not just a QGreenland workshop. This was a
Greenland data workshop. Yep.
Yeah. And so in that workshop, yeah, this was a really great workshop with a lot of discussion. And I think the problem of data existing everywhere and not being that accessible was, I think, really apparent. And so like one of the reasons that we became interested in our next phase of helping people take their data and then put it in these federated data repositories to make it more available, to make it more accessible, but also while we're now focusing on helping people put data in a format that is able to do that. So just to increase accessibility, because people don't know what exists, and it's all over. There's no single place for Greenland that really has this data. And so we are currently in the process of identifying some like priority data sets that we would love to get onboarded into Data One, and to make that usable with a tool like QGreenland. And then I just wanted to follow up that there is a new Q regional that's coming out very soon for the Patagonia region that has used QGreenland's code. And so that is coming on I know that's not Alaska, which was the question was aimed at, but this is a thing that we see gaining traction in other regions, and there's been interest in developing a similar package for the Himalayas, for like Q, India, Nepal. And so we're hoping it spreads Arctic wide also.
Randy has a comment for you too. It says, "Hi Elise, looks fantastic. After I take a closer look at the links you shared, I'm sure I'll be in touch with detailed questions. Thanks for sharing."
Yeah, always happy to answer questions. And I can put the email in the chat even, if anyone has questions after this, after things sink in a little bit.
Yeah, great. Perfect. Oh, Jonathan Blitt says, "Did I see a reference to STAC, stack collections?"
Ooh. I don't know that I know what that is. Maybe Matt knows. See Matt's hand.
Yeah, I raised my hand for something else, but I can answer that, which is right now we have for the portal, the newer portal, that it's not part of the QGreenland QGIS setup, but for the new portal, we're creating standardized tile sets, and we have talked about creating stacked collections for those tile sets so that people could access it that way, but we haven't done that yet. So that could be a great feature request for QGreenland, because it would be a pretty easy lift on the way we're doing things. Yeah. So then the question I had, Elise, was, are you tracking sort of requests for specific synthesized data sets for Greenland? Like, do we have an idea of the priorities of what different user communities really want to see in the product that could help prioritize the way in which we would pursue different repositories joining day one, or which data sets we work on cleaning and integrating to make accessible through the portal or through QGreenland, et cetera? Like,
so we're currently, we have a couple different advisory boards, as you know, and actually I should have pulled up a slide on that. So we're currently relying on our coordinating board to help us identify priorities. And so our coordinating board has representatives from like major agencies in Greenland and Denmark and other user groups. And so, yeah, it's through them that we're gaining an idea of what they want to see. Like, we know there's been a lot of requests for more climate modeling outputs that are just, they're just really large and they're really difficult to use. And so we're currently like thinking about that. But yeah, we're using that coordinating board to really help us identify areas and groups. And I know there's like there's Greenland Stats, which has a lot of tourism and like demographic data that our users in Greenland are particularly interested in seeing for their students. And so these aren't necessarily, I think, data sets that we would include in a future package of QGreenland, but it is something that we're interested in getting either into a data one repository or creating tutorials about how people can more easily make that demographic information usable with QGreenland.
Yeah, and this gives me ideas. Thanks for sharing, Elise and Matt, because when I'm working with Matt on the Permafrost Discovery Gateway, and this, your comment here now, Elise, and the question makes me think about, maybe we want to be more, as we're building these tools for people to interact with data, maybe we want to be more transparent on what kind of data layers we are aware of that people want to see on the portals, so that we have that list, and so people can write in, wishes on data layers that they see that we haven't yet been made aware of, and where people can write a comment, or I don't know, a vote or something on their favorites, so that's more transparent on like what we are planning on bringing in and what we are aware of, and so engage the community more in that process.
Yeah, and I'll just say we have put some thought into, it is a 5 GB download, which is not insignificant, right? And so in our hesitance to make it much larger than that, we are considering making sort of smaller bite-sized packages. I think particularly for an education purpose, because that can be a heavy load on a student's laptop, for example. And so I think prioritizing the data sets that educators would want to use with their class and trying to get that download size to something that is workable for them, but then also relying on this data portal, right, where students can see a broader set of data and visualize it, because they're not necessarily doing like a really heavy analysis that would require the full power of QGIS there.
It's a good point. The data ends up being stored on your own computer, right?
Yeah.
As you're working with it. Yeah. Which is a benefit too, because I used QGIS out in the field this summer up in Anwar, and I just had it offline on my notebook in the field, and I could see exactly what ice veg I was on in the bigger map that we had, and it was super helpful. But then it was only that much data I could store on the laptop for my QGIS. But yeah, I see the pros.
Yeah, the offline use was really important to our Greenland users. Internet can be a little bit spotty there, and so the ability to be able to use it on your device offline was really important, and a really important consideration when we were starting.
So for the QGreenland Net program, where we're trying to basically expand the data collections and the federations, one of our goals was to be able to make some of these much larger data products be available. And of course, that doesn't work with the offline sort of mode of QGreenland, but that's where we'll have the web portal and people can access stuff through that. Of course, all those data layers can be accessed in QGreenland itself through the same WMTS and other protocols that are supported. So these larger data sets will become accessible to people. I think one of the things we haven't done or talked about, Elise, that would be really interesting would be talking about whether people could zoom into and find a subset of a much larger data set that they're interested in, then be able to cache that in QGreenland for later offline use. So they're going in the field, they go onto the portal, they find a data set that they need, they go and find their field station or their field location, they download the high resolution data for that one little area. And then when Anna carts herself off into the field, she has that available in QGreenland even without access to the web portal. We haven't really talked about that kind of caching ability, but I think it would be a great feature.
Yeah, and I think that's a really important thing that we should also teach people how to do, because we do have a lot of users that do use QGreenland when they're in the field and when they are offline. Yeah, that's a great thing to talk about in the future, Matt. Thanks.
I like that thoughts a lot, because I could see the permafrost discovery gateway, which is using the portal feature that Elise highlighted for the permafrost discovery gateway to link into the cyber infrastructure that you're building, Elise, where you can download just a portion of the big data and use it offline. That would be really cool. So it's awesome. We're all working with Matt. Perfect. All right. See, any other thoughts and comments and popping up here? How did it all come about, Elise? Like, how did the idea even started of QGreenland?
I was
What
not
was
there
it?
for the inception, so but I think Twyla and why am I playing? Oh, Alan Pope conceptualized this 2019. I think, yeah, really inspired by Quantarctica, and really wanting to create something similar for the Greenland community that's doing similar climate work. Yeah, so sorry, Twyla couldn't be here to explain the inception, but I came out a little bit later.
So you said there's like Quantarctica?
Quantarctica, yeah, they use the U because QGIS stands for Quantum GIS, so they use the U.
Gotcha. Cool. Awesome. Okay.
So
Allison.
is there a, oh, sorry, go ahead.
Yeah, let's have Allison speak up first, then you met.
Thank you. Hi, everybody. I'm interested in some logistics related information. I just thought I'd see if there is interest here in curating authoritative information on like the heliports, the runways, medical facilities. I've been mining like the OpenStreetMap information, the crowdsourced R runways databases, and trying to work with Polar Field Services to verify some of that information. But I thought this might also be a good community to help vet those data sets and perhaps to archive, key logistics information at the data center. Also, over the years, there's just getting permitting information has also been of interest, and we rely pretty heavily on publicly made available information from Esri's World Database of Protected Areas, for instance. But in the past, we've also, exchanged information with universities in Norway and Denmark. And I think you guys are probably more on top of that these days than we are on behalf of the Arctic Research Mapping application effort. So happy to share anything we come up with, archive it with you guys, put it in the format for easy ingest, that type of thing. But just didn't want to duplicate any effort. If there's anything going on that's logistics related, regarding medical facilities, runways, even place names would be great. More detailed information on place names, Inuit place names. So yeah, with that, I thought I'd throw that out there.
Allison, we did use that open street map. I think I'm getting the name wrong, that you're talking about in QGreenland, because that was what was available to us. And then that is a thing that our partners at GIUS, the Greenland Geological Survey, and OSCE, repeatedly told that they were like, this isn't very accurate, this isn't great, like we don't like this. And so that is a thing that our partners worked with us to find a better data set that they had, that wasn't publicly available, which is, part of what we're trying to make better here. So yeah, that was a process, and that is a good thing that's come out of this, is that like we now have a better data set that the Greenlanders feel is more accurate, and that they've collected, and that they've let us use in QGreenland, and that we're trying to get in the data repository. And so like that is an area that has seen significant like growth for us, or development, is that an improvement in things like you're talking about, like these logistics areas.
Yeah, and so OpenStreetMap has community stewards, and I don't know if you guys have participated in that or wish to, but basically it's a means for exchanging information back and forth. They've got like standardized attributes so that if you want to contribute information that's being compiled for QGreenland, you can make it publicly available through OpenStreetMap as well. And so yeah, it includes place names, health sites, a lot of things that a lot of people put a lot of thought into. So it might be worth just even taking a look. I know I'd kind of looked into like, is there a medical facilities or health sites stewardship group that we could tap into to get more authoritative information? And there really isn't one. So yeah, and I've just been trying to get that on the radar of the logistics planners, because like I think it's something that should be probably revisited every other year or so, because the data is pretty out of date. And our runways is a similar, like crowdsourced, but not as well stewarded open data set. So maybe you guys could play a role in that.
Yeah, I don't think we have used it, and I think we still have the points of interest comes from OpenStreetMaps. I don't know. I would have to ask the developer, because I wasn't involved in that part. I don't know that we've returned like this is like a better place names locations file that we've gotten from our Greenlandic partners that you could reincorporate. So I appreciate that. Yeah, because we should be, what we've learned by using that data, we should be giving back. Totally.
Great, thank you.
Yeah, thank you.
Thanks, Alison. That's a really good point, like how you can engage the community, the user community, in refining and correcting the data that's up there. Matt, go for it.
Well, I just had a question on whether there's a hazard sort of linkage between QGreenland and for this particular IARPC community. So
What is our hazards linkage? Well, I think my goal in presenting this was that I could inspire some hazards interested parties to develop similar tools for. I think this group is particularly interested in Alaska, and so I was hoping to inspire some Q Alaska, and then I think QGreenland has some layers that, I mean, like not knowing terribly much about like what kind of data people who are interested in hazards are looking for. QGreenland certainly includes like permafrost data layers that you could use for hazards analysis, and various geology layers that you could use. And so I think, you know, there's like robust hazards analyses that could occur in there, if that answers your question.
Yeah, and I think that question is I mean, to all of us in the PI4 working team too, it's John is here and Liza was here earlier too, which her focus is Alaska, and Tom Douglas is on the working group too, and he's doing field work himself in Greenland too. So I think let's ping him in particular. And John, let's see what you have to share.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's the PA for the risks team. We've changed our name, so I keep calling us PA4, but we're now the risks team. You know, I think one of the key things we've seen is that there are a lot of different organizations and groups collecting a lot of different data, and that usually is driven by more long-term observation, long-term modeling needs. But that same data in many cases can be used to, you know, in combination with other tools to do better predictive analysis for hazards and or better modeling that could perhaps buy minutes or seconds or hours or days of, you know, potential discovery down the line when we're talking about, you know, where potential wildfires may take place, where, you know, permafrost melting is going to really affect specific communities, and kind of in what time frame will it affect them. So our goal has been, and I think part of the goal that Anna spoke about at the beginning, is to, you know, there's no one really specifically looking at that, but there are a lot of other people looking at a lot of things that are very tangentially related. And so, you know, how can we, as a risks team, collect information about QGreenland and the types of tools that you're developing? And then, just like Matt said, how is it applicable? Maybe like what step, what tool, what data is missing to kind of make that leap from, you know, this tool that's being developed for researchers and education purposes, you know, and have it be used by potentially like emergency management specialists at the state or local level when they're doing like their community resilience planning, when they're thinking about future infrastructure needs, and not only what type of infrastructure they should build, but where. And so I think that's kind of the larger question that we probably can't provide a singular answer to, but we hope by connecting people that it spurs those thoughts, like you, Elise, were saying. I, you know, hope it spurs this, you know, someone to think about this from the Alaska standpoint. We're kind of, that's kind of the goal of this, right? And so Matt, you know, I think to your question, I would maybe add to it, like, what is missing to get over that hump? Is it some analysis? Does someone need to develop some tools that could be added to the software suite that would allow for some of that probing or discovery? Or is it specific types of data that are really missing? And I think, you know, Allison's point about some of the infrastructure and other aspects that are there, you know, tying those together does help make those decisions, right? Like if you see an event happening and you know where the local hospital capabilities are, or the local roads are, or where there's electricity or energy or, you know, sewage or whatever, that can help with decision making, right? So it's kind of like, how can we tie those tools together and get them in the hands of people who are not scientists, or who are more first responders?
I just want to emphasize that the data cloud tools that we're developing are not region specific. So these tools will work with other regional data to help make that data in a format, a standardized format that will work with any region, that could be put back into a data repository that people could use for elsewhere, in QGIS or in other software. Like, the point is just to make it more accessible, to make it more usable by others.
Yeah, Matt.
Yeah, I just wanted to elaborate on what Elise just said. I'd go even beyond that and say that the QGreenland, our work on QGreenland and our work on the PDG and some other projects, we're trying to build a shared set of workflows that allow us to take any geospatially oriented data set and make it more accessible for this type of visualization usage, both within QGIS or within web portals of various sorts, both the ones that we've built at Data One or others that people are building through different web frameworks. So if people are interested in the idea of like, can we build a general purpose data processing infrastructure for, you know, making this geospatial data more accessible and more easily accessible for a variety of contexts, then we'd love to hear from you, because I think it's a shared set of needs that aren't really region specific. They're not really project specific. They're really shared a bunch across a lot of different science and engineering sort of domains. So yeah.
Yeah, and Elise, I definitely want to connect more with you on landslides and landslide generated tsunamis too, because we have collaborators over in Greenland on that specific hazard as well.
Yeah.
We need a GIS seminar series to cover the workflow topic. Haha. Way to go. Yes, Jonathan. Please add your email, Jonathan, in the comments there, so we have your contact information. That'd be fantastic.
And I'll just say Jonathan is a lead for the technology team. So there's like potentially a nice collaboration there.
Fantastic. Thanks so much, Jonathan. Thank Meredith. Great. All right. All right. Well, we could tie the knot here on the presentation here today, and unless anyone have any last some more comments or questions. Good stuff. Thanks in the comments here. It's great. All right. Well, thank you so much, Elise, for sharing the QGreenland work and where you guys are heading, and it just, yeah, I see like, yeah, it's really wonderful too that you're working with Arctic Data Center that has arms and legs to all kinds of data management work across the world. So linking into that, and like you guys said, Matt and you, that these tools that you're building is not specific for Greenland. They can be utilized for any other regions or different domains of science too. So it's really powerful. And next time we're going to jump to Alaska as a region with Leslie Jones for that. And if you have ideas or thoughts of future presenters, please let us know and suggest so we can learn what's happening around the corners of the world. And Meredith and John, do you have anything you wanted to add here at the very end?
Nothing to add, just echo your thanks to everyone. Thanks, Elise, for the presentation. And yeah, if you have ideas or if you have questions that could become ideas that we can go off and look for, feel free to add those as well. We want to see this as something that people can use to learn and grow from. So if there's things you're like, I really just wish I knew more about X, right? Let us know what that X is, and we'll do our homework and see what we can find.
Thanks everyone. Great meeting.
Yeah, have a wonderful Thursday.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.